Tina? No. It's even better. Every time I peek in your office, that's what I see on the screen. Fantastic.
was gonna share the. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, more of a different one, yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah, right. Once we understand our. Six, seven, eight.
We could, yeah, we could start. Mayor Pro Tem, Nuris, right?
Mhm. Mayor Pro Tem Galansky. May we start the special work session?
By the time we get to all that, we can have the mayor.
Just stay right there. He's gonna come back.
I think he's almost here, but that way we just read the whole.
Yes,
Yeah, we can start getting it.
sure. I will call this meeting to order. It is,
Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, that the Texas Open Meetings Act notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a special work session on August 28th, 2025 at 4 p.m. at 4:14 p.m. At the City Commission chambers located on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall Old Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas, 78520. May we proceed with the roll call?
please.
Mayor Pro Tem Galansky,
Yes, present.
Commissioner Martinez,
Present.
Commissioner Macias, Commissioner Villarreal, Mayor Cowan, Commissioner De Leon,
Present.
Commissioner Cardenas.
Present.
We do have a quorum ready to proceed. We will go ahead and have the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States and to the Texas flag.
and the Texas.
Commissioner Macias is present and Mayor Cowan as well. We will proceed to the work session. Item number one is a work session on the Capital Improvement Program, CIP.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners. My name is Maribel Guerrero. I'm the Director for Engineering and Public Works. Thank you for your service and for being here with us today as we discuss our capital improvement program for streets and drainage within Engineering and Public Works Department. So at any time, this is going to be a long presentation. There's a lot of information that's going to be posted. So at any time, if you would like to ask a question, please feel free to interrupt. If I can't answer it, then I have people here who can also assist. So part of my presentation includes the participation of Mr. Doro Garcia, who's our Assistant City Manager. And I'm also here with Deputy Director of Engineering and Public Works and City Engineer, Mr. Carlos Lastra. Okay. So let's move on. Forget that I'm the one that's doing the click. So as we move through the presentation, the purpose of this presentation is to showcase CPW, CIP, and in-house projects relating to full reconstruction streets, in-house mill and overlay projects, alley mill and overlay projects, sidewalk gap projects, and drainage projects. And that section will be covered by Mr. Doro Garcia. So we're going to discuss first our CIP full reconstruction streets. And I'd like to start first by just delving into some of the background, right? How we got here, what's been in the past. So if you look at our 5-year CIP from 2020 to 2024, you'll see that as part of the CIP in 2023, engineering design for Stagecoach Trail, Old Highway 77, Wild Rose, Old Alice Road, Coffee Road, and 14th Street were initiated. Stagecoach Trail, the design was complete and construction started in 2023 and is 2024, I'm sorry, and is now in its completion. Our 5-year CIP from 2025 to 2029 included the construction of Old Highway 77 and Wild Rose Lane, and those are currently in progress. And we'll go into more detail about the work there in some individual slides as we proceed through. In 2026, the proposed construction of Alice Road was also initiated. We're at 80% design complete, and Coffee Road, which is at 100% design complete. We are proposing this year the new addition for the proposed design and construction of Danette Road. In 2027, we're also going to propose the construction of East 14th, which is currently at 90% design. So as per the City Commission workshop held on the 19th of August, staff was authorized to modify the start of construction for 14th Street from fiscal year 2026 to fiscal year 2027. And this was done to avoid the significant increase in traffic congestion due to ongoing work by TxDOT on International Boulevard. So we didn't want to have so much traffic congestion in an approximate area, right? So get one project done and we'll initiate the other project, which would be 14th Street. This has a lot of information on it, but the following amendments, according to the our proposed CIP full reconstruction schedule includes the following amendments to Coffee Road, 14th Street, Dennett Street, are proposed for your approval. So as we go down the list, you'll see that Old Highway 77 and Wild Rose Lane from Ruben Torres to Morrison and Honeydale to Korea. These, if you look at the estimated values, these are specific construction costs because they've been through the bidding process and are currently in construction. When we go down the list from Old Alice Road, Coffee Road Phase 1, Danette Road, East 14th, and Coffee Road Phase 2, you'll see these are approximate numbers. We're still bidding final cost and design, okay? You'll also notice that Old Alice Road is is proposed to begin construction this year in fiscal year 26. It was accelerated from fiscal year 2027 because we're at 80% design, so we feel that we'll be ready for construction this year. Coffee Road, you'll notice, is divided into two different phases, right? The first phase is from Ruben Torres to Paredes Line, and the second phase is from Paredes Line Road to Old Port Isabel Road. You'll see the inclusion of Danette Road and then the East 14th rescheduling to fiscal year 2027. So why a two-phase approach for Coffee Road? We are regarding the high traffic nature and commercialization of Coffee Road and the acquisitions of necessary right-of-ways. So phase one is a reduction from the additional plan of almost 1.9 miles, almost 2 miles, making this segment more manageable in oversight and traffic control. Phase two is being proposed from Paredes Line to Old Port Isabel Road for approximately 1.3 miles. This segment does require land acquisitions for various right-of-way easements for stormwater drainage improvements and new traffic signaling. We are currently in the process of obtaining the right-of-way this year in preparation for construction of fiscal year 2027. This phase approach will improve project oversight, streamline coordination, and make it easier to resolve any issues that arise because of the smaller scale of the project if we break it up in this manner. Danette Road is being proposed. So with the phasing of Coffee Road and the rescheduling of construction of East 14th to fiscal year 2027, funding is now available to include Danette Road. And we'll go into more details in upcoming slides where I can describe each one of these with more information. So let's talk about Old Highway 77. So the construction cost is approximately $13–14 million. The limits are from FM 802 Ruben Torres Boulevard to Morrison Road. The road in its current condition, right, or how it was, it's an existing unurbanized roadway, which means it doesn't have curb and gutter. It had 2 travel lanes and it had aging utilities. So we're upgrading this to include full reconstruction of the roadway to include curb and gutter, lighting and utility improvements, a 10-foot bike and pedestrian sidewalks, and a 5-foot sidewalk. Currently, the team is working through some utility conflicts with BPUB involving the relocation of an existing 6-inch sanitary sewer line that interferes with the stormwater inlet and the potholing of a forced milling to verify its location and resolve other minor conflicts, which is why to give you a quick status of where we are with that project. So it's proceeding. We're working through some minor conflicts. Next, I'll show you some renderings of what these cross sections will look like. So you'll see that there'll be 2 lanes each way at the intersection of Ruben Torres, and then it transitions into a 1 lane each way. So the second street currently is in construction is Wild Rose Lane. So the project limits are from Honeydale to Korea with an approximate cost of like almost $3 million. Wild Rose was an existing roadway of 2 travel lanes with curb and gutter. And the proposed improvements include full reconstruction of the streets. It's a brand new roadway with curb and gutter, drainage, utility, lighting, a 5-foot sidewalk, and a 10-foot pedestrian and bike trail. I'm going to show you just some of the construction photos showing the installation of the pipe and the drainage and utility improvements. So the reconstruction of Old Alice Road is being proposed for this fiscal year, and the limits are from North Frontage Road to Ruben Torres Boulevard. It's estimated at a cost of about $5 million. Old Alice is currently a 2-vehicular travel lane road with curb and gutter. So we are accelerating the construction of Old Alice Road for fiscal year 2026 from its previous construction date of fiscal year 2027, because we are at 80% design. So the proposed cross sections will include the same as the previous streets, right? We're going into full reconstruction to include curb and gutter, drainage improvements, utility, lighting, and a 5-foot sidewalk and a 10-foot bike and pedestrian sidewalk or trail. So the reconstruction of Coffee Road, like as we said before, we are phasing this into 2 separate segments. This street is at 100% design. The Coffee Road, as it's currently existing, it's an unurbanized roadway. So it has 2 vehicular traffic lanes, a roadside ditch for water conveyance, and aging utilities, so no curb and gutter. Coffee Road Phase 1 is limits from FM 802 to Paredes Line Road, has an estimated cost of about $6 million, and is a little over half a mile. It is a rural cross-section that will be urbanized to curb and gutter and does not require new easements or land acquisitions, which is why we're proposing it for construction this fiscal year. Phase 2, with an estimated cost of about $9 million, the limits are from Paredes Line Road to Old Port Isabel Road, is about 1.3 miles in length, as we mentioned before, and this segment does require land acquisitions for various right-of-way easements for stormwater drainage, improvements, and to provide the necessary larger footprint area for the installation of new traffic signaling. We are currently in the process of obtaining the right-of-way this year in preparation for construction of fiscal year 2027. And again, the cross-sections will include full reconstruction, curb and gutter, drainage, utilities, sidewalks, and the shared bike and pedestrian sidewalk. No, no questions? Okay. So the proposed reconstruction of Danette Road with the phasing of Coffee Road and the rescheduling of the construction of East 14th to fiscal year 2027, funding would be available to accelerate Danette Road to this fiscal year. This strategic shift in project scheduling allows the city to address critical infrastructure needs on Danette Road to improve roadway infrastructure, safety, and long-term sustainability for a fast-growing area of Brownsville sooner than originally planned. Again, the limits are from Paredes Line Road to Queenswood. Currently, Danette Road is an unurbanized roadway consisting of 2 vehicular traffic lanes with roadside ditches for water conveyance. The estimated cost is $6 million, and the proposed cross-sections demonstrate the complete roadway reconstruction along with the installation of new curb and gutters systems to improve drainage and roadway integrity, a 9-foot bike and pedestrian sidewalk, which is considered really a multimodal pathway designed to accommodate both pedestrians and cyclists for enhanced connectivity and promoting active transportation, and sidewalk installation for the construction of ADA sidewalks to improve pedestrian safety. The reconstruction of East 14th to fiscal year 2027, the limits are from Southmost Boulevard to International Boulevard. The estimated cost, again, is $5 million and is at 90% design. So East 14th is an existing unurbanized roadway, and it has 2 travel lanes, roadside ditches, and aging utilities. So the proposed cross-sections will include the same as we've seen before, the reconstruction of the roadway, curb and gutter, drainage, utility, lighting, 5-foot sidewalks, and a 10-foot bike and pedestrian sidewalk. Here, I wanted just to demonstrate the streets in its association with maps and the districts. So 1 is Old Highway 77, 2 is Wild Rose Lane, Old Alice Road, number 3, Coffee Road, Phase 1. So we did Coffee Road for districts, and we put districts 2 and 3 for each because the street in completion will cover both districts, okay? Danette Road, number 5, East 14th, 6, and Phase 2 of Coffee Road for number 7. So next, we'd like to showcase our in-house mill and overlay streets. So in-house EPW streets and maintenance division typically provide about a 50% cost savings compared to contractual work if these streets were to be done by a contractor. Okay. Here is our proposed mill and overlay plan for fiscal year 2026. It has 13 streets totaling a little over 4 miles. This is, again, a cost savings of approximately 47 to 50%. The proposed streets also incorporate collaboration and support with our local business partners. So Ringgold Street is the section right in front of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. Spring Mart supports the construction of Embassy Suites and the stretching of CDBG funding dollars with the in-house construction of Orange and Grapefruit Streets.
Did you say also Texas Southmost College with Ringgold? Was that also
Texas
mentioned?
Southmost College, yes.
And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
just so you see that it's important to note the $1 million in savings by having this work being done in-house. I think that's always, for our taxpayers out there, I think it's really important to just highlight that if we would have contracted out for this mill and overlay, it would have cost us $1 million more than what was budgeted. So I think that's really important to thank our dedicated staff for their work and their crews to be able to take on this work and the equipment that you all have supported us, the Mayor and Commission, in our budget as we ask for this equipment, that you're able to provide that and then give our staff the resources to do this in-house.
Right. Thank you.
Abulat,
Thank you,
this
Helen.
cost estimate for the contractor valuation is based on our on-call contractor that we have vetted for our city work. So it's not an estimation. It is based on our contractor's cost.
All right. Thank you for that correction. So Ringgold does involve the location of TSC and UTRGV, and it was Robin Hood Street in front of BPUB. So yes, thank you for that.
Our one city approach ensuring, like, you know, our partners always ask us when we go to Texas Southwest College, Commissioner Martinez and Mayor, they've talked about Ringgold and how the condition of that street. And then like when you go to the PUB, there's quite a few, you know, potholes there. So, you know, we're trying to listen to those comments and also be good one city partners with that.
Thank you, Helen. So this map will demonstrate to you again the locations of our mill and overlay projects. If you also see to the bottom left corner, you'll see City ARPA, BPUB. These are the downtown water and wastewater projects. And so when they're done with that work, they provide mill and overlay of those streets.
Can I go back and ask a question?
Of course.
I'm not an engineer, but will 14th Street allow or be okay for heavy traffic, heavy trucks? Because I assume that heavy trucks go there. Right?
Yes, it will be designed for heavy load traffic.
And then in Milpa Verde, which was long overdue, will it be okay so that we don't get potholes or it doesn't get ridges? Because I know I've heard.
At this time, we're doing a mill and overlay, given our current capital program is already laid out till 2029. So due to the conditions it's in, this will be a temporary hold while we do the full reconstruction programming for the next 5-year CIP. But this will create a brand new surface on this roadway that should hold up for at least the next 7 to 10 years.
Oh, so that you don't get bumps and stuff?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, so Commissioner Galansky, so Calle Milpa Verde and Stillman Road are part of our planned CIP for future reconstruction. We're bumping it up into mill and overlay just to kind of help in the transition.
And just since we're on that, for East Avenue, until the East Loop gets in, because that's another street in District 1 that gets a lot of use and a lot of traffic, and the condition isn't great.
No, definitely. East Avenue is one of those roads, as you know, it's part of the East Loop reconstruction. Depending on how far that gets pushed back, we may have to do some mill and overlay or temporary repairs in the meantime, just depending on when we get funding for East Loop. We definitely have that in the back of our minds. Pretty much ready to address any concerns that come up when needed.
Okay, great, thanks.
So in this next two slides, this is part one, a part of two slides, you'll see that a listing of several streets in the lineup for mill and overlay. So this table shows mill and overlay streets in order of districts for fiscal year 2027 that can be accelerated to fiscal year 2026 only if surplus funds become available, okay? So there are 28 streets in total currently in the lineup and are selected into funding status as we progress through the fiscal years. So
I
here's
think it's
this.
important to note, Commissioner, if you look, East Avenue is the third street on that list.
Right, yes, ma'am. So, yes.
So this
the
is only
second- this
if there's surplus?
So, yes, we're able to kind of provide, we have a little litmus of understanding our operational costs and say we do have extra funds. We can go ahead and allocate or pull one of the streets out, depending on available budget, and we accelerate it into a mill and overlay. Mhm. So we're prepared.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
On the complete reconstruction projects, I know Old Highway 77 includes the expansion of utilities underneath the road as well, or improvements, significant improvements. On the other projects that are identified, are there also utility improvements as well?
Yes, sir. And those are done in collaboration with the BPUB
Okay, just want to make sure,
for full reconstruction streets, right? Yes.
including the utilities underneath.
Right, for full reconstruction. Mill and overlays, we're just touching the surface, grading the top of it and putting brand new asphalt and also the installation of some curb gutter.
Then
Go ahead.
Is it, ew, so then why is the old 77 so much more expensive than the other streets? I'm just curious.
Yes, that is the primary reason. On our full reconstruction streets, the cost is a lot greater because we're reconstructing the entire street, looking at utility, aging infrastructure, and we go ahead and replace any needed water lines, sewer lines, electrical services, stormwater improvements. So the cost varies drastically depending on the conditions of each roadway. On the mill and overlay, we do coordinate with our utility partners to make sure that if there are some repairs that need to be made, they'll go ahead and make those, and then we'll come back and do spot repairs. If it's something major, we'll usually skip the mill and overlay till a further date so we can do full reconstruction on those roads. But there is a lot of coordination that goes on with our utilities. I mean, a lot of it, it's really challenging, of course, to predict, utility breaks or new construction, right? But we do the best we can with communicating with all our partners to make sure that the roads we improve are not going to be torn up shortly after for any utility improvements.
Sorry, another question. So, 2 years ago, when I was on the city commission, the engineering for these streets that were going to be done, reconstruction supposedly had already been completed. But now you're telling us that like in some streets, the design, is that different from engineering, is 90% complete, 80% complete?
It's engineering design.
Given that some of these contracts we need to start construction till 2027, 2028, or 2026, we didn't prioritize or accelerate those designs. Now that with the changes we've seen in the traffic, for example, 14th Street, right? That's a project that we know we're going to push back just because of the construction going on International. We're no longer pressuring that engineer to finalize that design, given that we're not going to bid it out now. For example, for Old Dallas, now PUB is working to finalize that utility design, knowing that there's a possibility that that project may be accelerated. In our case, our design engineer, it's the same thing. We're giving them that copy board. We're pretty much complete with phase 1 design. Phase 2 design, we understand that we need to acquire properties if we have issues in acquisition of land. It may change the design, so we've held it back a little bit till we first acquire the properties and then finalize the design. So that's why you're seeing some of these designs being at 80 or 90%, which is correct. The designs for these projects.
And then TxDOT is going to go in which direction once they finish International? Are they going towards State Highway 48 or are they going towards the airport? Right? Because they're going to.
When they complete all of International?
Yeah.
I'll send you their phasing plan. I'd have to go back to confirm because They're either going to start from Four Corners to 511 on the next stretch down Boca Chica or South Padre Island Highway. I know they have both of those scheduled. They're not full reconstructions. There's limitations to it, so I'll share the plans to provide the details complete for both of those projects to you all.
Thanks.
So next we'll go into our alley, mill, and overlay proposed projects. So this slide showcases fiscal year 2025 alley, mill, and overlay projects. There are 13 and they're cataloged in order of districts. In fiscal year 2025, the city allocated funding for sidewalks and alleys. No funding was previously provided prior to fiscal year 2025. So alleys are designated for contractual construction, but may be performed in-house should EPW street teams have sufficient bandwidth to execute the paving. So these alleys are currently in the procurement process for contractual construction. This is, for fiscal year 2025. And the reason we're not able to do these projects in-house for fiscal year 2025 is we had other things we needed to deal with. What we found is we had extra funding to do the complete mill and overlay for Central Avenue. So we included Central Avenue. We had a section that was funded from Morningside Park to Morningside Road with CDBG funding. And then in our surplus funding, we had funding for Austin to Boca Chica Boulevard. So we pulled that out and we decided that middle section from Boca Chica to Morningside Park to also be included. So it turned out to be a nice long project, and it was done in response, to community interest, but also to help provide some additional safety and some traffic calming strategies. So the full mill and overlay of Central Avenue includes 2 bike lanes on each side that are designated through striping, and we're currently in the process of procurement those flexible bollards to keep traffic in line and keep our pedestrians safe on either side using bikeways, okay? So we're almost there in completion for Central Avenue. The other reason we were not able to do these streets in-house is because the volume of our BPUB patching. So we have a lot of utility cut repairs that are coming in from, BPUB. Our patching crew is very busy doing that. The volume just kind of outpaced what our patching crew was able to handle. And so we subsidized the additional, tried to catch up with all of those orders by initiating our streets team, drainage team, and whoever team we had available to pursue advancing on some of those BPUB utility repair requests. So a lot going on, a lot of good things, but we used our resources to make sure that we were good with our patching updates with BPUB and also to compensate or provide for the mill and overlay of Central Avenue. This street shows the proposed alley improvements. So you'll see that in light blue there, you can see that the dark blue is for District 4, yellow is District 3, red is District 2, and green is for District 1. And you'll see a light blue there that's titled City ARPA BPUB. These are the downtown water and wastewater improvements that include paving work. So we kind of matched our alley pavement with those. So in fiscal year 2026, we have the proposed mill and overlay as well. So this is proposed for this fiscal year. We have identified 21 alleys for mill and overlay. You'll see that these will probably also go into a contractor methodology, just depending on our workload and bandwidth for EPW crews to be able to perform these in-house.
I
So
also want to say, sorry to interrupt, but this is the first time we actually present our alleys. So just to
Yes.
get to alley funding, it's taken us a while. We had this whole list of requests and we've been working through them, but I'm really happy that finally we can say these are the alleys so that you can let your constituents know what alleys we're looking at and if there's more. And the good thing about downtown is with all the water and wastewater project, those alleys are getting done with that project. So hopefully by the end of a couple of years, all the alleys in downtown would have been redone.
Right, that is the goal. Yes, correct. So this is part one that's continued in the second slide. And in this slide, you'll see the different allocations for fiscal year 2026 alley projects. As you can see in the downtown area, fiscal year 2026 continues the improvement of downtown alleys.
And we understand that the request is always much more than what we have funding for. So as we have more surplus funding, we can possibly do more. And sometimes our school districts also ask us for some alley improvements because of the buses where they go. So I know from South Texas ISD to IDEA to BISD, we'll look at those alleyways where you may have even school buses going through there.
Next, we'll go and describe our sidewalk gap projects. So you'll see here, these streets were selected by streets which have been previously paved, including CDBG, in alignment with our plans. Some of these were also selected in collaboration with a multimodal sidewalk plan. And about 500,000 is available for sidewalks. Fiscal year 2026, our sidewalk money was allocated to Wild Rose Lane to include sidewalks for that full reconstruction project. So this is the plan for fiscal year 2026. And you'll see the allocations of our sidewalks on this map. And we also kind of delineated the areas where they coincide with our sidewalk master plan. And that is it for my portion. Now I hand it over to Loro.
One question for the Robin Hood, is it from Old Port Isabel Road to Kings Highway?
Robin Hood. Let me jog my memory here. Oh, right, yes, from PUB entrance. There's a section of BPUB where it's already been paved.
Oh, okay, so
our
it
mill and
extends all the
overhead
way out
extends
there.
it. Yes. Yes.
So where the new park is proposed, that all of that will get done? Okay, thank you.
It just depends on when we start digging. If we are able to obtain funding to start that project, we may delay it just so we don't damage a new road. But the intent right now is to pave it because we don't know when we'll get funds for that drainage project.
Thank you so much. That's one of the roads that I get the most complaints of. And yes, it is due for repair. I know that we recently did put 2 speed bumps about 1.5 years ago. So I'm not sure we can still apply those because that still is needed. And by any chance, do you guys talk about speed bumps throughout this presentation? And if so, if we don't, it's okay. But if I can make a recommendation,
on
is
speed
to
bumps-
add that to the next one.
So on speed humps, we don't have it on this presentation, but I will share with how we've come along with speed humps, right? For many years, speed humps have always been an issue. The request for speed humps has always outpaced the amount of funding that we get for speed humps. We get questioned a lot at the cost of a speed hump, right? Or why is it so expensive? Roughly, speed humps right now are running anywhere between $10,000 to about $16,000. And in the past 2 years, if you all recall, we did a big push in catching up with our speed humps. And our application process has become a lot more, it's become very detailed. Yeah, I was trying to find a better word, right? But it's become very detailed as to where we can place speed humps, where we can, to make it easier for our citizens to understand, right? That detailedness has really led us to reducing the amount of requests that in the past would get processed, or people would remain hopeful, right, that they would receive a speed hump. But what have we done, right? We still feel that there's a concern, and we've implemented different traffic calming methods. You all have seen the speed limit signs with flashers on them. We have areas of just slow down. Inverted speed humps is the ditches or the valley gutters that we've placed is another way that we've worked on that. Lane tapering, reducing of lanes is another one. You know, our bike lanes actually not only lining or delineating them on the ground, but actually putting markers down is another method that we've used for traffic calming. So that's one of the proactive ways that the city has really worked hard on traffic calming. Aside from that, you know, we always reach out to enforcement. A lot of the speeding we've noticed in our studies has come from the residents. With our studies, the equipment we've gotten for studies before, it would just give us max speeds so that we knew more or less where they're at or the average speed. Now we have software that'll tell us basically every car, what it's going at, the time of day. So we can really, we have detailed data to analyze if it's an issue of a resident that's constantly speeding or one constant hour that we see that the speed limits increase. So that's really helped us a lot in managing our traffic, right? Doing assessments for speed limits is another thing that we've worked really hard to work on the traffic calming. For this year itself, I believe the list of speed humps was 16 or 19.
Doro, can you guys talk please about the history of speed bumps? Because I remember, I think when I got here in 2019, 2020, there was a whole list of
Yes,
speed
we were in
bumps.
excess of
And
36.
I said, address the list. So can you talk,
Yeah.
to give context, as we're talking about the 2020, 2025?
Yeah, definitely. I'll touch back again.
Yeah. Can
Yeah,
you
so
talk a
like
bit
I
of their
mentioned,
thing for their history on the whole speed bumps and the, you know.
yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning, right, we had over 40 speed humps about 2 years ago, and we worked really hard in constructing those speed humps. We advanced funding. I remember one year we had a little bit over $100,000 for funding. The following year, we increased it to cover the remaining, it was like 20-some speed humps. So we caught up with the speed hump list. I mean, that we had, yes, it had 40, but some of these speed humps, we were doing 2 or 3 a year. So the list dated back to 7, 8+ years of people waiting for speed humps. So we completed that. And in the last 2 years is where we've really focused on the traffic calming and being more proactive in finding alternate methods to speed humps, right? 16 speed humps is the list that we're at right now. And that'll be, I think the majority of those will be completed with next year's funding.
So like you're adding 16 new ones, or
Correct.
when you do the mill and overlay, it include, and these projections,
On-
when you list the mill and overlay, does it include also the speed humps?
On
that-
mill and overlay, we'll replace whatever's in place. If it needs a bump, we will add a bump at that time. But these 16 speed humps are speed hump applications that we received, and that after studies and looking at different alternates for traffic calming, we've come down to the conclusion that there's nothing else that we can do, so we will be installing 16 new speed humps. Yes.
We also verify the need for those speed bumps based on traffic evaluation. So we'll go back and do some traffic counts to justify it and make sure that it's necessary.
And the reason, because you just reminded me, so someone who I know their street got resurfaced this year was asking for the speed bump like back, but maybe it's just a matter of they hadn't finished working on the street.
So on some of those cases, we will evaluate the street, and if it's deemed that it does not meet our qualifications, we will remove it and not replace it or add alternate methods for traffic calming.
Okay. Okay, then I'll follow up with the person. Thank you.
On the sidewalks, Doro, some of these are fairly new streets. I mean, busier streets now, like Sunrise Boulevard, Spring Mart, they're a lot newer. I understand Honeydale's a lot older. But shouldn't we have had those people responsible to do their sidewalks? And if we didn't, what are we doing now to make sure that this doesn't happen again to a commission in 20 years from now? And they have to go out there and build sidewalks when it's the responsibility of the developer or the house owner or whoever else.
So our sidewalk ordinance has evolved over the last 5 years. I think now I can definitely assure you in the last 3 years is when sidewalks have been required just about for every development on every street that their properties front. I'd say prior to that, the ordinances were different for certain areas. Going back, it's really hard to identify exactly. I'd have to look at what subdivision, see what year it was built to tell you specifically, you know, this area did not, at the time, it did not have a sidewalk requirement. But what are we doing now? The commission has allotted funds. Last year, we had $500,000. This year, it looks like it'll be another $500,000 for sidewalk gaps. And that's what you're seeing.
Are you trying to fill in the gaps where they've been asked for, or is it just kind of on a?
So this, how did we prioritize this, right? A lot of these sidewalk gaps are based on our streets that we did mill and overlays in the last 3 to 4 years. The majority of it is based on that, since we know that the roads are new, we're not likely to go back in to do work in those areas. Aside from that, we looked at areas where we had frequency of calls and volume of people asking, hey, look, this area, there's people that walk through here, and that's how schools, areas that have a lot of pedestrian traffic, is how some of these other streets were selected for sidewalk gaps.
Okay, because I mean, I imagine everybody needs a sidewalk, right? Most
Correct.
people will need a sidewalk. I just, I do remember there was a resident from Westlake who is on wheelchair bound, his son, and he would take him down to the,
Yeah, we need to look into this one,
I took
Commissioner.
the city manager a couple,
Yeah.
like a year and a half ago, I believe. So,
Okay.
That should
so
be
hopefully we
under-
can
Yeah,
still
we'll
take a
definitely
look at
look
that
into
one. I
that.
think that's a pretty important one. And again, I'm not saying that that's more important than some of these, but that is an important one as well.
Somebody that needs.
Thank
No,
you.
definitely, we'll definitely consider that and look into it.
I do have a question on our maintenance program for our streets. Are we still, sealing the cracks and we have a program to maintain our streets?
So, thank you, Mayor, for that question. Yes, this year we will start initiating a program for seal cracking, seal coating. It's not something that I've been used to seeing within the past years, but we are initiating. We've gotten a new machinery that also helps us with those initiatives. So you will start seeing a more proactive program this coming year for seal coating and seal cracking.
Great, that's great news because that'll extend the life of our
Yes, sir.
streets.
We got the right machine now.
And then I also have a last question. Doro, do you think this is a historic investment in our streets? Have we ever had this amount of streets programmed?
No, not of this magnitude. I can tell you that's part of the reason that, you know, even for Maribel talking about the first step of, or first level of maintenance, crack sealing is something that the city has done historically because it's very economical. The seal coating is a cheap method or a cheap methodology to keep your streets intact and preventing them from drying out and cracking. However, that process is a little bit more complex, requires a lot of personnel, the training of your personnel, because the equipment, you're basically placing a emulsion or oil-based material on the asphalt, so you can very easily lose control of it, cause a lot of contamination. It requires a crew that's well-trained for that. So we've been going through that for the last 6 months with our team and experimenting in new areas. They've been using some of our old equipment to learn while we get the new truck in. As far as the volume of work we have, one of the things that I wanted to highlight was the in-house work, right? I mean, I think in-house in the past, we've always done mill and overlay work in-house, but I don't think to this magnitude. The savings or the having a recurring program of $1 million committed just to mill and overlays year after year now for about 3 to 4 years is something that was unheard of. I mean, that's what we had at one time for our full reconstruction budget. So definitely you could see the impact, right? You know, I think a lot of the places where I go right now, I'm always asked, is like, what street are you tearing up next? You know, and it's one of the, everybody's happy when they hear the road's gonna get done. When we're actually working on the road, they're not happy. And then when we're done, they're happy that we're gone and they have a brand new road. But it's definitely a very solid program that we have in place. And really looking forward now for the addition of alleys. That's something that's new to our team. It's a smaller space. It's in a confined space compared to the street. We have a lot more utilities in our alleys, so it's a little bit more complex, a lot more safety, especially in our downtown area, all the gas meters. It's not something that our crews are used to, so implementing safety measures so that we don't hit any of these utilities in our alleys is something that we've been working to see how we can get by, especially that we also have brush pickup in our alleys. So sometimes some of these utilities may be obstructed or covered. The sidewalk program, we've never had funding for sidewalk gaps. So As you can see, this is a very well-rounded program. And I think on the city side, one of the things that we're not presenting here is the seal coating and crack sealing program, but that is instrumental for the investment that we're making in our streets.
I also noticed that for residential, when they do mill and overlay, or when our crews do, if they see like a cracked driveway apron or that, they'll fix it, or cracked like little curb, say there is an existing sidewalk and there's a cracked curb, they'll fix the curb, that little piece of the curb. And you can see that a lot in Bernard as well, or in Bernard, they actually put sidewalk in there as well. They did it. I'd also like to, and note that in talking to staff during the leadership conference that we had, they're very excited because before they said, Helen, you know, Mr. Rivers, we're so excited because before they would do the mill, they would mill a street and then they would, until they, when they finished the milling, then they would do the overlay. And so he said, for the first time, we're doing mill and overlay at the same time, like first you mill and then you overlay right after. And so they're very excited about coming from them, that they're actually, I'm not waiting to mill and then wait and then overlay. Let the crews are working together so they can do right after another. And that comes from them.
Yeah. City
Mr.
Commissioner,
Garcia.
I'm sorry.
On this sealant that we are going to be putting on our streets, do you know the lifespan or the maintenance, how many years that sealant will work on that street or road? Number two, I don't believe this is something new, that's out there. I think we could have saved the city, a lot of money if this was done a long time ago. But it's good that we're doing it now. And I commend you all for buying the machine and taking care of some of these roads. But, can you just let us or educate us on how long from when a road is paved and when we put that sealant on? Does it make the lifespan 4, 5, 6, 7 years before we have to do maintenance on that road again?
Sure, definitely. I do have a slide. I don't have it here with me that shows basically the life cycle of a street. But your average street from year 1 through about year 10 is when you want to have maintenance on a road. Maintenance are your courses like crack sealing, which usually you'll do crack sealing from a brand new road to a road that's roughly about 2 to 3 years old. The seal coating is roughly on roads that are about 3 to about 7 years old. That's the ideal time to seal coat a road. And all these processes, what they do is extend the life. They could extend the life anywhere from, you know, crack sealing just prevents the drying out of or water infiltration into these cracks causing potholes. The seal coating basically just maintains the oil integrity into the asphalt so that it can withstand use for about another 3 to 5 years, sometimes 7 years. You know, ideally, it'd be ideal if we had a program that we could do this on at least on a 7-year basis. You know, I think realistically right now, if we can do it on a 10 to 15-year basis would be a good start for our city. But we've done so much investment in our streets that we've done roads, a heavy mill and overlay program since at least the last 5 years. So that's what we're going to focus on. The roads that we've paved 5 years ago, 6 years ago, do seal coating on those. So at least those roads that we know that we've been working on, plus all the new subdivisions, right, that have been built in the last, 5, 6 years, those are the areas that we focus. So we have plenty of work for our crews to work on, but that gives you an idea of pretty much how you extend the life, right? The intent is to mill and overlay is basically your last maintenance course. Once you do a mill and overlay, it's because you've extended the life of that road as long as you could, and you're replacing the driving course. And that layer, the ideal expectancy or time life of that is about anywhere between 7 to 10 years, depending on the conditions of your base, right? And then you continue with that cycle all over again of crack sealing and seal coating to try to extend that life before getting into having to replace full reconstruction. Kind of like changing the oil on your car is basically what you're doing. You know, sometimes you got to do a little bit additional maintenance aside, like the spark plugs, heavier maintenance, but the idea is to extend the life of it as much as we can.
Thank you, sir. I know there's a couple of streets in Brownsville that like say Price Road, and I can't think of any other ones, but they were recently repaired and they're nice. So I would hate for them to start
Correct.
getting damaged, but I commend you for y'all for purchasing this machine and extending the life, time or life cycle of our streets.
No, thank you all for
Thank you,
approving the
sir.
budget.
Absolutely. And I just also want to bring to point that our teams are constantly looking for new methodology to try to really stretch our dollars and really maximize, the bandwidth of our teams. So with the patching crew, they do potholes and they do BPUB repairs. We're strategizing right now on the use of our crewmen to also provide for the seal coating and a very aggressive, seal cracking process. So our patching team is going to be stretched and they're going to maximize how they do their work. And it's done in conjunction with the other divisions. When there is a pothole repair, usually, it's the patching team that goes out there and they do patchwork, right? Or there's mowing. So our street sweeper will follow through after them to pick up all of the excess asphalt, from the filling of the pothole, any debris that we find through the mowing, it's picked up. And after our sweepers go through, well, guess what? We have a nice street for potential striping. So then our engineering striping team, traffic team goes in there and they do the striping. So we're maximizing each other's work to really provide for some clean methodology in how we're progressing and maintaining our streets. The other thing I want to mention is to complement or to add to Helen's comments, the methodologies are also not just strategy in terms of the crews that we allocate for each division, but also the methodology. So like the streets team, right? Milling followed right by paving. Central Avenue was the first time they ever experimented with that methodology, and it was just wonderful. They were able to knock that out in no time. So we're getting better. We're looking for different strategies. We're also working on developing performance measures to measure our success in terms of how we do our project management and how we complete projects. So we're looking at everything from manpower to machinery use to materials that we utilize, to really develop some good performance measures and really translate that to either success or room for improvement. So we'll come back to you with that information.
Thank you so much, and sorry for interrupting you. I know you guys left off at the drainage improvements on the presentation.
The biggest highlight is on this whole presentation is really the cost savings that we've been able to bring by our great team at Engineering and Public Works. I think when you see our drainage projects, we all know Tradition Estates and the recent improvements in that area. It's really being with the city for 23 years and seeing the growth of the department over the years and what they're doing today, it's really impressive, right? For many years, a lot of their work did go unrecognized, and now, with the funding that's been allotted and the opportunities that they've been given with adequate equipment more than anything, and seeing the results of the work that they've done in the last several years, it's really exciting times for us here at the city and the work that we're taking on by our in-house team.
I also would say it's a one city approach because now that we have more projects, procurement needs to do more, finance needs to issue POs, our legal has, sometimes we have problems with contractors, the city manager's office, the EPMO office. So there is a one city approach to them because we would love to do all these things, but if your purchasing department doesn't get that PO through, or the finance, it's not budgeted, or the CO, it's not going to work. So we really have worked really hard to really, break the silos in departments and really say, this is our project and we all have a piece of that project to get it to the finish line. So I really want to recognize all the back of office employees as well that support the ability to show these improvements, these road improvements.
And the cost savings help us do all these other projects that we want outside of Engineering and Public Works, right? Art, one time, our health director, pulled me aside and he said, Doro, I really like hearing about you. And when you talk about saving money on streets, I was like, why? He's like, because the more money you save is the more money we have. So I never saw it that way, but that's a very good analogy, right? I'll get on to the drainage projects. On drainage, we have so many projects that I'm proud to report up here that we've actually now completed. We've talked about Texas Water Development Board projects since 2019 and finally seeing them come to fruition. I know we had a bit setback with COVID and getting those projects out, then in getting the approvals from Texas Water Development Board. It has taken some time, but I am happy to report that the West Brownsville Drainage Project is now complete. This project was under construction for roughly over a year. It'll provide many drainage improvements to our West Brownsville area. Here you can see the pink area on the left lower side of the screen that's pretty large. That's what this project on West Brownsville will help improve drainage in, or drainage on. Another project we have under design is the Impala ditch lining. That particular project will be re-advertising soon. Unfortunately, construction escalation costs have risen. While we got the approvals from Texas Water Development Board on this project and clearing all the environmental clearances that are necessary, really set us back in when we could advertise for this project. But that project did come in slightly, significantly over cost. So we're going back and re-looking at the scope of work so we can re-advertise that project and hopefully have that complete or started soon. The Four Corners Detention Pond is also a project that you all have heard for many years. We're on the last legs of getting the environmental clearance. We're required to have one more public hearing due to some environmental findings. So we'll be scheduling that public hearing so that we can wrap up that project and hopefully get that project advertised soon. The HUC 10 study was recently completed. I think you all were instrumental in the acquisition of the property on Robindale for the Four Corners Detention Pond. That was one of the 10 projects. Well, there's actually 14. I say 10 because at the state level, we were asked to select the top 10 areas where flooding impacted residents or businesses, actual structures. That's how they identified the top 10 areas that needed the most attention for drainage. And the Four Corners area is one of those areas that impacts many residents. Here, you're only seeing highlighted the area that's needed for the improvement. In a later presentation, I'll show you all the area that it impacts. But that detention pond in conjunction with the other Four Corners detention pond labeled here Southmost Waterplane Park, benefits roughly about 70% of Brownsville. So it's a large impact to our community. The other project that we have is the flood sensors improvements. This one, even though it's the flood sensors kind of sounds a little bit misleading because it sounds like it's only sensors. This project has a lot of culvert improvements. Culverts are the pipes that are under the road that connect one resaca with another resaca. So everywhere you see a dot here, we have some pipes underneath the roadway that'll be improved. The green dots are for phase 1 that is already been approved for construction. And the purple dots are still pending approval from Texas Water Development Board, but as soon as that gets approved, we'll be advertising those projects. As you can see, this is really gonna be helpful in getting water to be conveyed from one side of the city to the other side, and I say from one side or the other, usually from west to east, because the west side of our city is a little bit higher, so most of our drainage flows to the east and get it to its ultimate destination, whether it be the river or the chip channel or San Martin Bay, which all eventually end up in our Gulf.
Dodo,
Go ahead.
that green dot, old Highway 77 in Resaca de la Huera, there's a green dot there by VICC.
Correct.
Would that help with what's going on right now with that Resaca being so low as well? Or is it low just because?
I can look into why it's low. I mean, given that we're in a drought, it's probably one of the major reasons why a lot of our water levels are lower than normal right now. But we can definitely look into it. This is really to help with conveyance.
Get it, okay,
Yeah,
get it out.
get water moving, correct.
So yeah, so that Resaca, just if you can't take a look at it, it's red, it's stinky, and there's a lot of dead animals.
Definitely, we'll coordinate with PUB and look into that.
Thank you.
In VICC, since you brought it up, we, about 6 or 8 years ago, we did numerous improvements in that area already. So this is the finalization of the last improvement before we get to the needed crossing on Central Boulevard that we're working with TxDOT on. Another important project that we've been working on for probably about 6 years now, and hopefully we'll wrap this up at the end of next year, is the USGS installation of monitoring gauges for our resacas and various water bodies, right? These two items here have been instrumental in how we forecast rainfalls. They are actually live. I've shared the USGS link where you all can visit the site and see 15-minute intervals. Data is 5 minutes from being live. So every 5 minutes it gets updated and we receive that data. And it's been really helpful just to make sure that our systems are working the way we thought they were working. So in a lot of the projects that we're proposing, now we've refined the hydrology to make sure that it lines up with what we're actually seeing in the real world. A lot of this was theoretical in the past, so this has given us a lot of that data that we need to do our design work, right? With GBIC, we did work as part of the land transfer. There is a detention pond shown here at the north side that we're working on beginning the design. This detention pond will help the areas basically along the Net Road, on the north side of the Net Road, the majority of it. Most of the properties that drain that way, including Tradition Estates, we're looking forward to start on that project soon. The other project that I think many people ask about is the bags that we see at the end of the expressway. They're pretty large. They've been removing sediment and cleaning out the resaca in Los Tomates area, or what we know as the Duckhead area. This project has been moving along swiftly and looking ready to get completed in the next couple of months. That's really one of the biggest projects we have going on right now. And for our in-house projects, like I said in the beginning, you know, Tradition Estates, it's a very low-lying area. This area, unfortunately, at the time it was developed, was not built to the standards that it should have been. So we do have several areas that flood on the slightest rainfall, right? One of the projects that we recently completed specifically for this area is a ditch roughly about a mile long, complete with the open ditch and the piped-in ditch. But the intent of this ditch is to help alleviate flooding in this area. It'll help. I don't think it'll fix the problem, but it's definitely better, big improvement from where they were at before. So that at least in the small rains that we have, we don't have to be worried about, did we turn on a pump? This will give us time to make sure that the initial rainfalls, 1 to 2 inches, this ditch should be able to manage and give our team a little bit more time to be there and not have to respond, you know, like we have been right now. Anytime we know of a forecast, we're there, making sure that the pumps are ready and that we have redundancy in place just in case something goes wrong. So this is a huge improvement. And then the fact that we were able to do it in-house, another substantial savings to the city.
We still need to have a thank you for our staff and invite the mayor and the commission, everyone there to kind of celebrate this win. We've never done this before, so we really want to thank and invite the community out. I think they'd be very happy with that. And then also, we did receive Texas Water Development Board money for the first time a couple of years back, I think.
2019.
2019, and our grants department were instrumental, so I really want to thank them, and also multimodal transportation with its bus, when it does bus shelters, it also looks at the ADA, you know, are there sidewalk connectivity to trails and sidewalks? And so it really makes sure we don't just put the bus shelter there, but it's the bus shelter and make sure that our residents can get to the bus shelter.
And more so than the cost savings, I think it's also important to note the confidence that's built from the Department of EPW and being able to have that in-house, giving them the confidence. I think it's really important to me as well. So I commend you all on that and look forward to more savings.
Well, thank you all. That concludes our presentation. If you all have any questions, drainage or streets, we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia, and then the EPW. You all have done a great job. I know these streets haven't been fixed, and I guess the amount of streets that have been fixed in a long time. So I want to commend you all for the job you have done, and of course, Ms. Helen for leading the way. I know I've spoken to Mr. Lastra. I'm sure he's tired of getting my phone calls. Sometimes I'm kind of embarrassed to even call him. But no, I want to commend you all and really thank you from the bottom of my heart, the work and the job you all have been doing for the city of Brownsville. Thank you.
And likewise, I want to reiterate on Commissioner De Leon's comments. Thank you so much for everything that you guys do. It is not easy. You guys have been very resourceful and stretching every single dollar to ensure that Brownsville is being enhanced in its infrastructure, on its roads. I know this past year we covered 110 potholes in District 2, and it shows because we don't have problems with potholes, we have problems with illegal dumping. And I appreciate every effort that you guys do. Just one last comment, I do worry a lot for our employees that are out there, especially our street maintenance crew. They are in extraneous conditions. It is extremely hot from the asphalt to the bottom and to the top. They do feel that pressure of making those roads because I know they probably see maybe social media comments or they feel that pressure from us as well, like we need this, and calling, when can we do this, when can we do that? And so I know that they feel that pressure just to ensure that we're caring for them. The road is getting done. They can wait if they can just please take some breaks here and there, some hydration stations, staying cool, and maybe we can have some cooling stations for them because I mean, I saw them there working in heat at 2 p.m., 1 p.m. And I'm telling you, from the bottom, from the hot asphalt to the top. And I just worry for them. I'm sure they're doing great and you guys have your system in place, but I do think about that. Just let them know, you know, we, as a commission, we support them. Yes, we want that road done, but they were getting some roads done that take 4 to 6 weeks and they were getting them done in 2 weeks. I mean, one of the roads in my district, they got it done in 2 days. And so I just worry about that, you know, making sure that we take care of them as they're taking care of us within the city.
Thank you, Commissioner Macias, for your comments. And you know what? That's how we roll. Our teams are very self-motivated because they love this community and because they're from this community and they really believe in really sustainable quality of life. So it takes very little for our teams to be motivated to finish our streets, and they want to feel responsible to this department, but especially accountable to you all. So thank you for your support. I also, want to thank you for your patience. We do get a lot of requests and we try to get to them as quick as possible. Sometimes it takes us a few days, but we always try to get and be responsive as possible. Another comment, Commissioner Macias, is that our teams are very, very aware of the extraneous circumstances that they work under. The elements are very difficult. Asphalt is very hot. The machines themselves really output a lot of high elevated temperatures of exhaust. And so our teams know that we take safety as our #1 priority in the culture of EPW. So we make sure that they always have water and hydration, but not just water. We also provide them with Gatorade, for electrolytes. So we always try to make sure that they have the right tools, equipment, and also the nourishment they need for working in these elements. When they do get a little distressed, we ask them to take a break, get inside the vehicle, cool off in the AC, and, ask them to kind of feel out their temperature for getting back into the work conditions. So I'm extremely proud of our men and the mighty women of EPW. I'll have to say that
They're also very happy about the stipends, so hopefully we'll have second reading on that on September 2nd and any possible cost of living increase that may come on. So they're also, and also we do
Grateful.
give certification pay. So if they get a certain certification, that they're able to get a bump in their pay because of that, and also tuition reimbursement, which is all those programs I think that all our employees, in particular, these employees are very thankful for, and they express that to you.
Yes.
So I want to express that on behalf of them.
Yeah, very grateful for their pathways of, the path of development and advancement that the city provides for them. They're very grateful.
Ms. Maribel, if you could do me a favor, a really, really, really big favor, can you please tell the workers and your staff and every city employee that the city employs, thank you for the job they do day in and day out. Also, Chief Salceda, your police force, fire and EMS, thank you for everything you do, and especially the street maintenance and all them. I want to tell everybody thank you for the job that they do every day for the city of Brownsville. From the bottom of my heart, I really thank them.
You're welcome, Commissioner De Leon, and we'll make sure to relay that message to our teams. Thank you.
We had an executive session item, but it's too soon for that item. It was now with the Senate bills and all those fund bills, we need to reassess and understand how we can proceed with that project. So there's no need to have an executive session.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned,
Aye.
everyone. Thank you.
We're adjourned at 5:25 PM.